I talk about one of my students constantly because I'm obsessed with her. She's like, I know AI is the future. I want to be on this course. And I'm like, perfect. Took the course. I met with her about 2 months later, and we're talking about her team of chatbots that she loves. She's built like 10 of them. And she's like, there's so many of them. I can't manage all of them. And I jokingly said, you need an operations manager. Like, you need a bot to manage your bots. She took that and said, yeah, I do. Built a chatbot to manage her chatbots. And like that, beyond what even I've done, I keep my team small. 'Cause I like a small team, but some people really do build their teams out to feel like they really have grown their business to like accommodate all these employees, but without the overhead, without the drama of hiring, onboarding, hopefully future firing, offboarding, which is awful. I've been there, done that. It really is really cool to see how creative people take their own teams.
Welcome to AI and Marketing Unpacked, where we simplify AI for impactful marketing. I'm your host, Mike Alden, here to guide you through the world of artificial intelligence and its transformative impact on marketing strategies. Each episode will break down AI concepts into manageable insights and explore practical applications that can supercharge your marketing efforts. Whether you're an experienced marketer or just starting to explore the potential of AI, this podcast will equip you with the knowledge and tools you need to succeed. So tune in and let's unlock the power of AI together. Greetings, program. Welcome back to AI and Marketing Unpacked, where I selfishly use this time to pick the brains of experts at keeping up with and integrating or layering artificial intelligence into social media, content, advertising, search, and other areas of digital marketing. Oh, and you get to learn too. Subscribe to be shown how to prepare yourself and your brand for this AI revolution and come out ahead. Now imagine waking up to find that while you slept, your entire marketing strategy for the next month had been planned, your social media content calendar filled, and a dozen perfectly crafted email campaigns are ready to go. Sound like a dream? Well, it's time to pinch yourself because this is the new reality for savvy social entrepreneurs harnessing the power of AI. In today's episode, we're diving into a world where your limitations as a one-person show become a thing of the past. A world where scaling your marketing efforts doesn't mean sacrificing your work-life balance. Some of you probably got triggered at that, or burning through your savings on new hires. Instead, it means embracing a secret weapon that's transforming the landscape for solo operators everywhere: AI as your virtual marketing team. Let's be real for a moment. As exciting as this sounds, you might be thinking, AI, isn't that complicated? Don't I need to be a tech wizard to make this work? This is where our extraordinary guest comes in to blow those concerns out of the water. I'm just thrilled to introduce Niki Dunagin, a creative entrepreneur and the mastermind behind the Creative Copilot. Niki has revolutionized the way solo entrepreneurs approach their businesses by harnessing the power of AI. She's helped countless creative professionals build custom AI assistants that handle everything from copywriting to brand direction, all while keeping the process fun and low effort. And Niki isn't just talking about using a few AI tools here and there. She's pioneered an approach that transforms AI into a virtual team capable of supporting solo entrepreneurs in ways previously thought impossible without hiring. Her methods have enabled creative professionals to scale their marketing efforts, fill skill gaps, and achieve results that rival those of much larger companies. Hey, Niki, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. That was such
So
a good
glad to
intro,
have
by
you.
the way. I need to like steal that for my own stuff.
Like I tell people, I'm very transparent. I have AI helping me write these, but most importantly, it's you that's doing the hard work to make these kinds of intros possible. Thank you for joining us on the show today. If you could start by just sharing your journey of discovering how AI can function as a virtual team for solo entrepreneurs or solopreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely. So my journey began as I was working a 9 to 5, like most people are, and I really wanted to build my own thing outside my 9 to 5. But a lot of us experience burnout in our 9 to 5s, and we come home and we're exhausted, and we're like, how can we possibly like do marketing and run campaigns, and all these things we have to do for a business after we just work a full day? And I discovered AI and started using ChatGPT a little bit, had it kind of write up some captions for me here and there, or maybe like a little section on a website for me or my bio. And I found that it made my life so much easier. Just having that second pair of eyes and a second brain kind of do that for me took me out of it, and I was able to move a whole lot faster. And so I decided I wanted to use AI to launch my own course, but there really wasn't that much information about doing that. A ton of AI information about like doing content and blog writing, that kind of thing, but not really how to like build a system or build a process. And so that's how my own course came to be. The CEO of Chatbots. I decided to run it and train people on chatbots based on my 9 to 5 experience as a director of operations for a real estate team. I had experience with hiring and training and onboarding and all that stuff that goes into it. And so I was like, why don't I just teach people how to onboard AI, which is for a lot of creative entrepreneurs, a whole lot more exciting than just learning AI. I tell them like, "Hey, you should learn AI to, like, do your systems faster." They're like, "I don't want to do that. I don't wanna learn a new thing. I don't wanna create a new system. I don't wanna do that and that." And I'm like, "That makes sense. Actually, what if we kinda gave you a new assistant that you onboard, and they're really talented, they're built for you, so they know your backend stuff, they know who you are, they know how you work. How much more exciting is that for you than learning a new system?" And they're like, "Absolutely, yes. Like, you give me an assistant, I will take it." And so that's kind of how it's all been going together. I launched back in February of this year, and I've really been hitting the ground running with it, and but it's been super exciting to kind of have my own way of handling AI and teaching it and just seeing how much it helps so many entrepreneurs who have their own limitations, whether it's time or skills or if they have something going on in their life, or they may be sick or they have family or something like that. They don't have to worry about limitations anymore. They can just keep on going and their AI will fill in the gaps for them and make them feel very confident in what they're putting out.
That's such a great approach because you're right. If you simply tell somebody, hey, you should use AI, maybe even give them a reason because it'll make your life easier, that's not enough. It's not enough. I'm not able to wrap my head around how that's going to be applied specifically to, areas of my life where there could be improvement, but you give them very specific use cases and examples. It's something that comes up all the time on this show. Where we're talking about personalization. Well, let's get into detail about what that looks like. So, I'd love if you could share some of the key components then for building this AI powered virtual team and how that might compare to a traditional human team.
Yeah, so it's really interesting is as I have been training people on AI, I've actually changed the way I train AI. I've actually made it a whole lot more simple, thankfully. I believe that the tools like ChatGPT and Claude, people who run those tools want them to be accessible. And it seems to me like they are really putting out new features that make it easier for everyone to get access to AI, to learn AI, to start using it quicker. And so now I'm able to teach people how to use AI the same way I would teach onboarding an assistant, which is you can hire a really, really amazing assistant who is really, really good at marketing or social media. But if you're not taking the time to train them or give them materials that they need to be set up for success, they're going to fail. And so I teach it as let's onboard your assistant, let's train them, let's give them an operations manual or your SOPs or your branding guides, whatever you already have in your business, as most businesses should have some kind of documentation of how they run, how they do things. Use those documents and put them in a chat bot. Literally, all you do is drag and drop them these days, which is amazing. And your AI can read those documents and learn from them. And that's how you kind of integrate them into your own business where if you're worried they won't sound like you or they won't be on message for you or they'll do something weird or something, train them to do differently and they are going to want to follow that. What I tell people all the time when they're like really hesitant about like sounding like everyone else or sound like they use AI, AI wants to help. Like it really, really is trained to want to help everyone. We just have to take the time to communicate to them how they can actually help us. So if you're worried about it sounding generic or using words you wouldn't use, tell it. Some of us, myself included, have to learn the skill of giving feedback. A lot of us don't realize we're not used to giving feedback until we're in the position to do so. And then a lot of times people will just kind of be like, oh, I don't like that, exit out. When really, the really cool thing about AI versus other tools, it's partnership. You can talk to it, you can chat with it, you can say the weird, probably mean thoughts you have to the chat bot that you couldn't say to a human assistant. You can tell it, "Hey, that's not good. That's not good copy. I don't like that. I hate that." Tell it, but also tell it why you hate it. And it will automatically go ahead and be like, okay, gotcha. Let me change it to this. Does this get better? And when you start to have that one-on-one conversation with it, that's where I find the magic really happens. And then when you have the training behind it, plus the feedback, that's where you start to feel like you really have a business partner behind you and you can go a whole lot faster than you're used to going.
I'm chuckling because I've said the same thing. If someone came to me and asked me to give them 10 more subject lines and then 10 more subject lines and then 10 more subject lines, I would lose it. I don't have that kind of patience, but AI obviously will say, yeah, absolutely, Nikki. I'm happy to give you 10 more subject lines and give them examples of the way you write. It will sound so much more like you. And it's a fantastic approach. But I love the mindset shift that you're
Mm.
actually suggesting here. We did a previous episode with Andrew Davis talking about building your own clone or an army of AI clones. And it's the same idea, but you've articulated it even better, where you have not just one AI assistant, because that's something that people talk about a lot, you're treating AI as an intern, right? But an intern doesn't know how to do everything. You would not expect an intern to do sales and marketing and HR and PR and programming and anything else you could dream up that would be helpful for you. But if you treat the AI as a team, and you've got different chats or custom GPTs, and we'll get into some of that stuff in a moment, folks. But if you have different AI systems identified for different purposes, and you've trained each of them to do that one thing really, really well, whether it's marketing or a specific subset of marketing, like I have an AI assistant just for my podcast. They
Mm.
help me set up all these podcasts, and that's all that it does. I don't go to it when I'm working on ads. I don't go to it when I'm working on brand strategy or anything like that. Before we get into some more of those details, and I want to come back to those, I'd love if you could give an example because that sometimes helps people really wrap their minds around what it is that we're talking about. Maybe a success story of a solo entrepreneur that you've worked with and help them maybe transform their marketing specifically using this AI team approach.
Yeah. So I'll give a human approach first. I think that's helped people
Great.
to like give a real world example. When a lot of marketing people are hired, I'm in marketing. When I was hired as a marketing person, we probably all have the experience of, okay, you've been hired to do our social media marketing. But we also need you to learn how to do video editing. We also need you to do ads. Can you do paid ads? We also do Google. You know Google's local services? And I'm like, I thought this was social media.
Nope.
Like, what are we? I can do all the things, but I'll tell people I'm not guaranteed to be an expert on all of those things. So with I always tell people when they have these 50 ideas they want their AI assistant to do, I remind them, hey, if you hired a human assistant and asked them to do 50 things, do you think they'd be really, really good at all that stuff? They may be decently good at them, but when you're able to have a chatbot do one specific thing, it can be really, really good at that one thing and it can move a lot faster. So, an example would be I have a client who she wanted to do more YouTube and more blogging. And she was like, well, I have all these blog posts and I want it to be able to take these blog posts and turn it into a script for me because when I do it, it's like I'm just reading a blog post. I'm like, that makes sense. Your blogging voice and your speaking voice are going to be different. And then she was like, well, can I also write the blogs as well? And I was like, well, what you're going to have is when you go to it and you say, hey, I want to talk about marketing today. It's not going to know if it should write a blog post or if it should write a script. So then you have to take the time. Yes, it's only 2 seconds, but you have to take time to say, hey, I need a blog post or I need a script. I would rather you go in, say like your minimal thing that you need to say, I need this topic today. And it knows I write blog posts or I write scripts. And so the more defined you can make your what I call team members of AI chatbots, the better and quicker you can both move. And I also find it makes it a lot easier systematically to know who quote unquote to go to. So I really build my team of chatbots just like I would build a team in an office where in my head they're all in their own offices and I can just go into the office like, hey, I need this, or go into marketing, need this. If I need brand stuff, I need to go into brand department. Having them separate also helps me to keep my ideas separate and to keep that kind of flow going a lot more natural as well.
So when Andrew was on the show, he was talking about almost exclusively using ChatGPT. He's only
Mm.
starting to touch on like Claude and some of the language models. And he was pretty much just talking about using different chats for the different purposes. So he's got a chat where he's been working with ChatGPT. He's named his AI, by the way. It's Judini.
Right.
And he has a chat just for the promo videos that he does when he's speaking for other clients, and then he's got a different chat for other purposes. Is that your approach? Is that the model you're using, or what? How are you proceeding with these teams typically?
The way I teach it, I usually work with new entrepreneurs. And so they're really trying to figure out a lot of stuff. They're trying to figure out the entire ecosystem they need to build, which is stressful. I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
So I have them build out their own copy and their own branding chatbots. And then I teach them you can take these two chatbots and really make them into like their own teams. So like a content writer can become a blog writer, a podcast writer, a YouTube writer, an ad writer. You can really, once you have that one chatbot, you can duplicate it and make it more specific each time you need to. I don't go into too much with them at first because the idea of building one chatbot is like, whoa, what do you even tell?
Yeah.
But once they have that one, they always, always come back to me and be like, can I also do this? Can I also build this one? I'm like, you can do that. I talk about one of my students constantly because I'm obsessed with her. She is a brand strategist and she was one of my like early adopters who she's like, I know AI is the future. I want to be on this course. And I'm like, perfect. Took the course. I met with her about 2 months later, and we're talking about her team of chatbots that she loves. And she's gone beyond what I told her to build. She's built like 10 of them. And she's like, there's so many of them. I can't manage all of them. Like, I don't know how to like manage all these bots. And I jokingly said, you need an operations manager. Like, you need a bot to manage your bots. She took that and said, yeah, I do. Built a chatbot to manage her chatbots. And like that beyond what even I've done, I keep my team small 'cause I like a small team, but some people really do build their teams out to feel like they really have grown their business to, like, accommodate all these employees, but without the overhead, without the drama of hiring, onboarding, hopefully future firing, offboarding, which is awful. I've been there, done that. It really is really cool to see how creative people take their own teams. And I find that it actually makes them feel more legitimate internally. I named my course the CEO of Chatbots because most creative people don't feel like CEOs. They feel like they're just still entrepreneurs that are, running their fun little business. I'm like, no, you run a business. It's hard. You are a CEO. Let's build you a team so that you feel like you're the boss of some people and they really do like gravitate towards that feeling to really start to learn how to do feedback, learn how to give feedback, learn how to manage and know what they're wanting from their employees. And then in the future, they could hire a human employee and be a lot more ready to do that. I'd been in a position where I hired an assistant before and didn't know how to manage her, didn't know how to get feedback to her. She was amazing. Fortunately, she was very gracious to me and patient with me. And so we made it work. But onboarding people and having them under you is its own skill in itself that people don't usually have. And so I think AI, even in that sense, is a stepping stone. If you know in the future you need to hire, but you've never done it before, or you've never managed a human being before, use ChatGPT. Trust me, it's a lot easier to tell a ChatGPT or a chatbot, whatever you use, I don't like this, or can you do these 50 things for me? Versus a human, or I know I've had an assistant and I've been like, I need her to do so many things. How do I even like approach this with her? Like, I don't want to tell her she needs to do like 50 things a day or else the world's going to explode. Well, yeah, I can't do what I want. I can say what I want. And it
No.
makes it it's a lot simpler. And so that's how I approach the team. It's really based on what you need to delegate, and then grow from there.
Yeah, I enjoy this so much because I work full time for Agorapulse. I'm part of a team. I've had direct reports in the past. I have always enjoyed and want to keep the social media hat as a solopreneur side hustle. I mean, maybe I'll do it full time someday, but even then, I love this idea of having this virtual team of AI assistants. So, for those of you listening, let's suppose that we've determined the team members that we need, and we're starting to set them up. What's your process for onboarding and training the AI so that it understands the business's unique voice and needs? We kind of touched on this a little bit before, but I'd love if you could expand on that.
Yeah. So, like I said, if you already have documents that you've set up when you set up your business, like SOPs, operations, branding guides, those kind of things, use those as a guide basically train it like you would a new hire, where you probably give them this giant binder of things. You're like, hey, read this today, and this is what we do. This is how we do it. This is who we serve, all those good things. If you don't have those things, that's where I would actually start, is having
Mm.
the time to sit down and make your branding guide, make your voice guide, make those things that you would need for a new hire. Because if you don't have those things and you don't know how to explain your own voice, AI is not going to be able to decipher what it needs to be doing. So definitely step into that boss role, that CEO role, where you know your brand voice, you know who your target audience is, you know your messaging and your content pillars and all those good things. Once you know those things, write it down in a document, drop it in AI. What's really cool and what makes it feel like a partnership is if you don't know how to explain your brand voice, that's okay. Put it in your best words. Have AI look at it and say, okay, you can give it a caption you've written and say, how would you describe this voice? Or how can I make my voice in this caption more like the voice of this competitor who I like their voice better? It can start to help you in making those documents as well, but really hone in on your business and what makes it special, all those good things. In my course, I have an entire section called the operations manual. It's the longest section of it because it's really detailed. And I walk you through all the things that you need to know and how to write it down so that you can just drop it into AI later. Because that is a hard part for a lot of people, is really documenting who they are, what they do, their brand mission, their vision, those things that they don't think is really important enough to do when they have all these million other things to do. But once you have that and you start hiring, quote unquote, either chatbots or humans, that's where you start to get that business going. And it's super important to have that really strong foundation as well.
I couldn't agree more. I wrote in a recent newsletter about how in my new role at Agorapulse, I needed to craft our brand story. We'd never had an official brand story before. So I started by feeding Claude. I was using Claude in that example. Our vision document, our brand guidelines, which was voice, tone, style, that sort of thing, some example blog posts. And then I had a whole conversation with Claude about what makes for a good brand story, why should we use it, how to build it, what frameworks. We went back and forth on what frameworks to use. And we set it on Tamsin Webster's framework with a little bit of a tweaks from Donald Miller. And then we built together the actual brand story. And by the end of it, this was like a 2-day conversation, but by the end, it was an amazing brand story. Absolutely phenomenal. Folks, go to the newsletter. You'll be able to see how that works. But we're talking with Niki Dunagin about integrating AI so well into your business and processes that it feels like a member of the team. And I want to drill down into some of these ideas. But before we get to that, let me share a great platform for you to use, particularly as a solopreneur, to better leverage AI. This episode of AI and Marketing Unpacked is brought to you by Magi, your gateway to making generative AI incredibly simple and accessible. Wondering how to seamlessly integrate AI into your marketing strategy without getting bogged down by complexities? That's exactly where Magi shine. It provides user-friendly AI solutions that empower marketers just like you to innovate and elevate your campaigns without needing a degree in data science. Imagine having the power to generate creative content, insightful marketing data analysis, or even personalized customer communications, all at the touch of a button. Magi isn't just about providing tools, it's about transforming your approach to marketing with AI that's tailor-made to be straightforward and effective. So, whether you're looking to boost your content creation process or want deeper insights into your marketing performance, Magi makes it all possible with a few clicks. No fuss, no hassle, just results. Ready to simplify your AI journey? Visit Magi today to learn how their solutions can revolutionize the way you engage with your audience. Don't just market, market smarter with Magi. Tap the link in the show notes. So, Nikki, one of the things that I love is when new tools and technology are able to level the playing field, so to speak, and they allow solopreneurs, smaller businesses to really compete with larger ones. How do you see this approach to AI helping smaller businesses compete at that level?
I really feel like when I go back to my, like, first day starting my own course, my own brand, that kind of thing, I just already felt so behind, and I think a lot of people don't recognize, first, how long the people you're looking at have been in the business. A lot of people that I thought have been brand new to the business or have been into a year have really been in it for, like, 5 to 7 years. It really is something that you may not be able to see, And also, a lot of people have teams or support behind them in some way. So when you start out and you're looking at all these people who are really successful, you can just feel very behind. And on top of that, you have so many things to do. You have content to get out, you have the products to build, you have the website to build, you have the systems to put in place. And it can just feel like I really like a lot of people who come to me are creative people. They really want
Mm.
to do brand design or they want to do social media management. And that's what they really want to be doing. They have so much behind that they have to get started with. They're like, I don't really know where to go with this. I think with AI, it can feel like you're bridging so many gaps that stop a lot of people. So for me, I don't feel like I'm the best content writer. I don't feel like I'm the best like caption writer. And so just being able to go to AI and say, hey, I need 10 captions for next week and just having it write that. And then I can go in and just edit based on what I know would sound a little bit better or sound more like me really saved so much time. It also is such a great tool for, like, looking at things that you don't know how to do. So a lot of people in my course, they need to build a website. They go to AI and say, "Hey, I need to build out this one tool or this one form in my website. How do I do this?" And they can say, "I'm in Showit or I'm in WordPress or whatever I'm in." And AI will just tell them like, "Hey, this is how you do it." And they're like, "Oh my gosh, like, that was so easy." It really is just making those gaps smaller for everyone, especially when you're starting out and you don't have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of time. Making things faster and easier makes that difference for a lot of entrepreneurs to keep on going. Because I know for me, I could have stopped a lot of times when I was overwhelmed.
Mm.
AI just really kept me going, and I think that's so important. And I see a lot of people being like, "Oh, well, with AI, people are making worse content. You can make movies now with AI, but they're not, like, the same as a human-made movie." People have been making bad businesses and bad movies forever. That's just the reality. Obviously, that's
Yep.
always been happening. The difference is they have resources like money and time and connections that are out of reach for a lot of people. AI, on the other hand, is a resource that everyone has access to. And so I think it's time for a lot of people to realize use what you have access to as your resource. Don't feel guilty about using a tool that makes you run faster. A lot of people feel like they're cheating with AI, which is so strange to me. But I do get it, especially with creative people. They feel like they're so ingrained in what they do. They're like, well, if I use AI, I'll lose my creative touch or I'll lose my personal touch on it. And I'm like, well, if you were to go to like a CEO in a high rise corner office and he's like, hey, I'm going to hire an assistant, would you tell him that he was doing a shortcut? No, you would not.
Mhm.
If they'll work a 9 to 5 and you use AI to write a caption faster, would you feel like you were cheating? No, you would not. Just because you're running your own business for yourself and you are really integrated into every little thing, it doesn't mean you're cheating. It doesn't mean you're doing a shortcut. It just means you're making your own life easier so that you can keep building your own business, which is the important part of it.
I had to be transparent and honest for a moment because the first part of what you were talking about really, really resonated hard with me. I have been in digital marketing for almost 2 decades. I've had the social media hat. It's an award-winning blog since 2011. I've spoken on international stages, and yet I can't help but feel inadequate and behind, particularly when it comes to AI marketing. And there's a guy in our space who is I've met him in person. He's a super nice guy. I know he owns multiple businesses, including an AI startup. And he has a huge Facebook group and a huge following. And I see his posts and I see just the sheer volume of engagement he's getting on his content. And I feel a lot of insecurity, inadequacy, compared to him. And I know I've been in the business longer than him. And so that I struggle with that. And I know I shouldn't. So that's a great reminder to all of you listening that we're all on our own journeys and these tools are here to help us. So thank you for sharing that. You mentioned a couple benefits that people talk about all the time. It saves us time. It allows us to do things we wouldn't necessarily even know how to do. So it's that almost a research assistant and strategist and consultant that can sit next to us. What are some of the unexpected benefits that you've seen either in your own work or other folks come up when they're using AI in a team for marketing?
I think the one that always gets people is when I tell them. So I have a client right now who we're building out 2 bots for her. She runs a really great community for entrepreneurs that she's wanting to really build out to be what she wants it to be. So we're building her a community manager that will help her come up with ideas, keep track of her schedule for the week of what should be in the community. It'll also look at her analytics of what's working, what's not working each week to help her kind of really streamline that community. And then she also wants to build out a content creator. Most people really want a content bot because we have to put so much content out there. And
Yeah.
so we were talking about this, and she was like, well, should I also make a chat bot for creating content for the community? And I was like, no, you can just start with one of them and then bring the other in the room. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, okay, well, let's say you're with your community manager. You're talking about what works, what doesn't work, and you have a guest speaker coming in next week. Have it write that all out. You can say at content writer bot, look at this and write our content for the week for the community. And she was like, I can do that. I was like, yeah, you can do that. It feels very much like, and I miss this working a 9 to 5 in an office when you are sitting at your desk and you feel very alone, you feel very trapped, and you're like worrying about something, like an email or something. I would always pop my head over and be like, hey, other person in my office, can you look at this? Can you help me with this? Like, what do you think about this? Having that ability with chatbots, be like, yes, you can bring them in the same room, which is very cool. It can make people feel like they're back in an office space where they're not so alone. And just like the way their eyes light up when they realize that is so fascinating to me and really cool. But it also, that's how you can make things work faster. She was wanting to make another chatbot. And I was like, no, just have them talk to each other. I think that's one of the benefits that I always like forget people don't realize they can do, but also just I never expect how happy it makes them to be able to do that. That's definitely one of them. I think for me, just being able to ask the small questions like I'm in my car, I'll go to ChatGPT and be like, hey, what's this light on my dashboard mean? Or honestly, when I got my new car, I couldn't figure out how to open the gas tank, which was very embarrassing. And I'm at the gas station, like, am I an idiot? Put in ChatGPT, my car model, how do I open the gas thing? It told me those little things that really start to add up in our day to day where we have these little questions that we just need answers to. That's where you save so much time. And for entrepreneurs, your time is money and it's also your energy. And anytime you can save your energy towards something else, I don't think enough people recognize. A lot of people don't recognize the huge benefit of delegation when they're so ingrained in their business. Delegation really is the first step for a lot of people to get their time back, which is really exciting.
Those are all huge benefits. I love, the fact that we're basically training ourselves or retraining ourselves now to turn to AI when we just had the simplest of questions. I mean, we didn't grow up with Google, and then eventually we figured out, oh, we have search engines, the internet, we can search those things through. So for those of us of a certain age, this is going to take some repetition, but I'm training my 9-year-old daughter to have conversations with Pi all day long. So she's going to grow up used to just simply turning to AI anytime she needs a piece of information. And I loved your tip about bringing custom GPTs into existing conversations with other custom GPTs. This is something Molly Mahoney talked about a lot in a previous episode. I'll link to that in the show notes because it's fantastic things that you can do when you start to chain together these different things. But what are some pitfalls or some challenges that folks can kind of expect, maybe should be aware of when they're relying on AI for marketing, and how can they be mitigated?
I do think that as we're relying more on AI, people naturally, and I have this as well, people naturally feel like they are disconnecting from what they're putting out. So let's say you use AI to make all of your captions for the week. You can start to feel like these captions aren't from you anymore. And so what I do is I have it write out a lot of content like blog posts and captions in my posts, all those things. But I still put my own self in them by editing. What I find and what I tell people constantly, especially creatives, your AI is never going to be as talented as you. It is just like hiring an assistant. When you hire an assistant, you're not replacing yourself. You are just getting help so that you can be better at your own job and in doing what you enjoy doing. And so I always remind people like you need to continue to step in and still be that boss to that chatbot because I think as more people use AI for content specifically, you are going to notice those patterns of behavior, the same language, the same words. It's gotten a lot better over the last couple of months, but it's going to happen again where people can feel they'll get that like kind of literacy skill around it where they can kind of pick out what's AI written. And I think as that happens, as we all as humans kind of learn that skill, I think that's where people are going to really want that true connection in content, especially in marketing. So I would say be ahead of the curve by using AI authentically, keeping yourself in it so that you don't feel like down the line it's even harder to put your own self back in your content. That would be one thing. I think another pitfall would probably be not, and I had this recently, not looking at other options. For a long time, I was anti-Claude, to be completely honest, because I was like, I built my entire business in ChatGPT. I've learned ChatGPT, like I know this one thing. I don't want to continue to learn other things. But by using both, I'm actually able to kind of put them head to head. I've even had my custom chatbot write something. I've had Claude write the exact same thing. If Claude was better, I copied and pasted it to my custom chatbot and said, hey, this is better for this reason. Can you update your training to know that I prefer this for this reason? So use all the resources you can. Don't get too complacent in one, but also at the same time, don't constantly chase the new shiny object. I think the really awesome thing right now is that all the AI tools are competing very heavily. They're all trying to race each other. We've seen it over the last year, especially. ChatGPT will do one feature, and then 1 or 2 months later, Claude will have it. 1 month, Claude is really great at writing, but then the next month, ChatGPT will be like, hey, I have a new thing, check it out, and it's really, really good. So don't feel the need to constantly chase after them as either. Really learn one tool because when you learn one tool, it's easier to learn everything else, but you can also feel like you're not constantly having to learn something every single month or every single week as well.
That's a really good point. I often talk about Magi. I had the mid-roll video a moment ago because I like that if I'm using Magi, I can pick and choose which model I want to use depending on the purpose. Dustin Stout's a friend of mine. He found a Magi. He's got all of the different versions of ChatGPT, all the versions of Claude, all the versions of Gemini. Right. So if you know a model is better for one thing than another, you can pick and choose and you can just slip back and forth even within the same chat. And then he also has his version of custom GPTs, they're called personas, which those persist across all the models. So if I'm using Claude for something, I can switch back using ChatGPT with the same persona or some GPT. But to your point, there's always certain things that are almost better if you do them inside of those models themselves. So that is a bit of a challenge to solopreneurs to wrap their heads around what the models can do, what the tools can do. I do recommend, just like you said, for people to keep it simple and not try to do all these things, particularly again, if you are a solopreneur or a small business owner. What final advice do you give somebody like that who's maybe just starting their journey into AI and AI and marketing, and they don't necessarily know where to start?
I think my biggest advice is just to start. I feel like a lot of people just starting is really hard for them. I would say pick a tool that you enjoy being in. And I say that because right now the biggest ones I'm seeing are Claude or ChatGPT. And if you were someone like me who you just need to feel comfortable in the space, pick the one you're comfortable in. It does not matter which one it is, just pick one. And then from there, learn how to train them the easiest way, whether it's dropping in a document, making custom GPTs in ChatGPT, but definitely taking the time to learn how to train and give feedback is the biggest thing. Because I find when people go a little bit too hard in just prompting or worrying about the right prompt, those kind of things, that's where they get really overwhelmed. Learn how to really chat with the chatbots and have that back and forth. If you're getting that answer that you don't like, tell it why and build that skill set out. And then also, I recommend everyone keep a tab open with whatever tool you use. That way that you have that reminder of anytime you pause and you're annoyed about a task or you don't want to do something or you don't want to look something up, just drop it into that tool and see what it does. You can't guarantee it's going to do exactly what you need to do. It may not give you the right answer, but just being able to see what it can do 9 out of 10 times, I still find myself being very surprised by what it does. And so building that habit, even for myself, to remember to ask it that'll go a long way in building those habits as well, which is really important.
Terrific advice. Great points. Thank you so much, Nikki. This has been absolutely amazing. For folks who want to learn more, maybe learn more about your course, where should they go to find and connect with you?
Super simple. The Creative Copilot on Instagram and Threads or thecreativecopilot.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, all of you, for listening. I'll have all of Nikki's links in the show notes. And remember, if you are truly just getting started in your AI journey, I've got a great resource for you, an AI marketing primer that's going to help you understand, what are we talking about with these language models? What is a custom GPT? All that basic information that's just going to arm you for everything that you need to know going forward as a marketer. I'll have the link to that in the show notes below. That's all the time we've got for today, friends. Please, please, please find the AI and Marketing Unpacked podcast on Apple and drop me a review. I'd love to know what you think. Until next time, welcome to the grid. Thanks for joining us on AI and Marketing Unpacked. I hope today's episode has inspired you and given you actionable insights to integrate AI into your marketing strategies. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and consider leaving a review. We'd love to hear your thoughts and answer any questions you might have. Don't forget to join us next time as we continue to simplify AI and help you make a real impact in your marketing efforts. Until then, keep innovating, see just how far AI can take your marketing. Thank you for listening and have a fantastic day.